Comenzamos el bloque informativo en Extra News.
Donald Trump Jr., everybody.
What's going on, guys? Man, Charlie, I remember when we were starting these out, and
it was like that.
You know, it was like this. It was like your average
first 3 rows.
It was like your average political meeting where there was like 12 people in a room, and this is awesome. And there were no young people.
And now we have thousands and thousands of young people from all across the country.
No, it's amazing. And thank you guys for doing all of it. I know it's summer vacation, and it doesn't seem like there's ever a vacation anymore. It's always nuts out there, but it's amazing to see you guys as involved as you are, watching what's going on, being vocal, having that next generation in there is so fundamentally important. So I just love seeing you guys out there. So thank you for all of that. It really makes a big difference, and it was obviously huge last November.
Yeah, and the theme of what we're talking about is fulfilling the mandate, especially for the younger voters in this audience. Last week, the One Big Beautiful Bill was finally passed and signed into law. And one of the components of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the most important, is fully funding ICE, fully funding the deportation effort. What would your perspective be? Your father has said no amnesty under any circumstances whatsoever. Talk about the need for mass deportations and how we will not put up with any amnesty whatsoever.
Yeah. Listen, it's so fundamentally critical. I mean, it was really the #1 issue we all campaigned on. We see what it did to so much of America, what it did to so many communities, and honestly, what it did to so many of the low-income communities in this country, where people were just sweeping those jobs, and ultimately everyone's potential American dream was getting wiped away. And so the Big Beautiful Bill, the funding of the wall, the funding of ICE is so fundamentally important to actually getting these things done, right? We saw what we could do about just the border itself. But now you have 20 million people probably. I imagine they don't even know. Just getting in there, they're getting all the benefits. You know, the benefits that you guys pay for yourselves, that your parents probably paid for all of you guys. They get that with no contribution to the system. And that was by design under the Biden administration. So to have the funding to start the mass deportations, but more importantly, the parts of the bill that literally cut off all of the freebies that were just draining our coffers, but more importantly, were a calling card to the rest of the world. Be like, come here, we'll give you everything. The health care that you got gets diluted because you get to pay for thousands of others, millions of others, tens of millions of others, who will likely never even pay into the system. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in any other country, and there's a reason no other country was doing it. So, that was a fundamental aspect of the Big Beautiful Bill, to now actually have the funding to do this. And it was sort of amazing to me how much even reluctance there was from so many, allegedly on our side, who's, well, it's just controversial. You're gonna have to deport someone. Listen, there's gonna be good people that this happens to too, but there are millions of criminals, and this is Joe Biden's ICE. I mean, when I saw the statistics, I literally couldn't believe that a civilization could survive when our Western values, our culture, the civilization itself, when they literally admitted, and this is Biden ICE stats, so this is probably diluted a lot, but 600,000 criminals, 13,000 murderers. I mean, think about that. 13,000 murderers were let into the country. They knew they were murderers, and they let them into the country. 16,000 rapists. Okay, add those together, you got what, 30,000, let's call it, 30,000 murderers and rapists. There's about 4,000 counties in America. Imagine you spread them out, evenly throughout that. Yeah, we'll throw 7 murderers or rapists into every county in America. How's that gonna work? What's the end game there? And that's what was going on.
The end game is Lake and Riley. And the end game is Rachel Morin, which is dead people all across the country because of the open border.
Yeah. So, that has to stop. They got to get rid of that. And they have to also do a lot more, because they have to enable the Americans to have a chance. We have to be able to innovate, grow, be productive enough to create the wages necessary in a lot of these businesses that Americans will actually work there. We've seen what happens when some of these places, oh, it's going to be a disaster. Oh, wow, there's a line of Americans ready to do some of these jobs. A big part of it was also, from the corporate tax cut standpoint, right? That's great. I mean, I'm a business guy. I love the corporate tax cuts. But I think what was really unique about the BBB was how much time, energy, and political capital my father put into making sure those tax cuts translate down to working class Americans. Okay, when you have the no tax on tips, all of these ideas, they're going to benefit Americans so greatly. The original tax plan from the first administration, it did just that. Everyone said, oh, it's just corporate, it's just corporate. But I think the stats were like close to 90% of Americans, like regular people, got thousands and thousands of dollars in real benefits to them. And that's the idea. I mean, his fundamental purpose is to make sure that those real Americans, the hardworking Americans who've seen their wages diminished with inflation, we're getting that under control too, but that were really struggling for the last few years, actually get to see the benefits of these cuts. And again, it's one of those things where my father had to go way out of his way because, the Republican class, well, we're going to do it for corporations and maybe some of that will trickle down. No. It's going to be about the Americans, about getting them the most benefit out of this, and that's how everyone wins.
And so this last week, President Trump has been in a feud with California over the transgender sports thing. We're both fathers of daughters. Your daughter is a very good golfer. I mean, what this whole men and female sports.
Wow.
I told you she had a lot of fans here.
Yeah.
I tried to tell you.
It's funny.
I was like, Don, and he's like, ah.
I don't want to say we created a monster, but by chance it sort of happened almost. I mean, it'll be a year ago in 2 days. I was with her on July 13th when my father was shot. And I got the unusual call from my daughter that morning saying, hey, I want to go fishing, which, if you have a teenage daughter, you guys are teenage daughters or son, you're not often calling dad to go do something. So when you call dad, she's nodding, she's like, yep. When you call dad, he's going to do it, right? It doesn't matter. So it wasn't even the perfect day. I was like, yep, I'm going to go get bait. We're going to go deal with it. We're going to go fishing. We were out probably 13, 14 miles offshore, having a great day, catching fish, and we got the call. And I picked up my phone. And it's like, your dad's been shot. And I'm like, and? Well, we don't know anything. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. There's calls that are good and bad. That's only a call that has degrees of bad, right? And we didn't know anything, and we're frantically kind of calling. I guess the only thing that they did right that day was shut down other communications. And so I think we set the sea speed record from offshore into Jupiter where we live. And, finally we were able to get my dad on the phone, and, it was sort of a harrowing thing. By then we had seen some of the videos of him coming back up with the sort of fight, and I just got on the phone. Yeah, I'm not usually at a loss for words, but that was one of those where I was like, I got nothing, but I was like, that's the most badass thing I've ever seen. I was like, I'm not sure if it's like tactically the most intelligent thing I've ever seen either.
Bring yourself.
Just stand up again. What could go wrong? So I was like, but it was this sort of somber moment, and finally it was just, again, it got awkward enough. I was like, okay, so we got to ask the most important question, which is, how's the hair? And he gave me Don, the hair is fine. It's a little bloody. There was a lot of blood, Don. But the hair is fine. It'll be good. Gonna have to wash it. And it sort of broke the ice, and I'm not gonna say it got normal again, but it normalized the situation. And my daughter was with me, and Kai has probably spent more time with my dad one-on-one than I have, and I'm a lot older than her, largely because of golf, and she's like his golf buddy, and she plays with him every weekend when he was around, and that was all the time. And she called me that next morning, and she's like, you know what, I want to speak at the RNC. It wasn't, and to be clear, it's my daughter, so it wasn't exactly I want to, it wasn't a question, it was like I'm going to. And I'm just like, I guess I'll bump some governor,
And you did.
Well, I didn't do anything. I called my dad. This was like a 6 o'clock in the morning call. He picks up on the first ring. I'm like, hey, you doing good? By the way, Kai wants to speak at the RNC. And he just goes, whoa. Well, listen, when you do this every day, by the way, we've seen guys that do this every day and still blow that, right? When there's 40,000 people and you're in a stadium and there's 10 million, 20 million people watching on television and you've never given a speech in your life, that is not easy. It's hard for most people, again, who do it. It's like they're used to a small crowd and that's easy. It's a lot of pressure. And he's just like, that's a big one. That could go wrong really quickly, and we understand how bad that can go. But he just thought about it for a second. He goes, you know what? That kid's a winner. She'll do great. Like, that was it. Like, congratulations. She'll open for you, and like, we'll bump someone and make it happen. And she's done a pretty good job since then. So, yeah, she's amazing.
So then, and President Trump deserves so much credit, making sure men are not going to be in female sports, which is the kind of connection. So she's a great golfer. How do you interpret how the Democrat Party continually embracing this men and female sports issue? What is their reluctance to just moderate on this issue?
You know what? I love it. You know, I think it's such a top issue, especially for like a lot of the demographics that, you know, men sort of understand it intrinsically. I think, you know, a lot of soccer moms around America sort of, you know, their entire currency, you know, it was virtue signaling, right? And like they latched onto this thing. And I think it was one of the guys from Daily Wire actually gave me credit a couple months ago. They were like, wow, Don Jr. was on this issue in 2017, because before it was really a thing, you'd see it like some dude would win a high school girls like track championship and they're getting a scholarship to the finest university for track, and I'm like, yeah, but it's a dude. And this was Twitter 1.0, so let's just say guys like you and I and probably everyone else in this room, you know, we were definitely in the minority there. It was 95-5, 90-10, you know, conservative to, you know, raging libtard. And even then though, I'd put it up, like, this is insane. And I'd read the comments, and it was, you know, just people who were just waiting to comment on anything, to hate on me, whatever it is, and I feed off the hate, it's great, it's fine. But I remember reading the comments and being like, wow, this is a losing issue for them, because even the people who hated my guts were like, oh, I hate Don Jr. so much, but he's right. You know, next comment, oh, I can't believe I agree with Don Jr. on something. That's how ridiculous it was, like before it became a thing. And then, you know, the trans mafia, which was, you know, the most beyond reproach organization in the history of the world. I've never seen a group of people that probably comprise like 0.02% of its society that they were infallible, right? They could do no wrong. They were obviously right. And the Democrats fed into I mean, even against like, you know, gay liberals who were like, wait a second, we fought for decades to be able to get, you know, equality, and they don't want equality. They want equality plus. This is insane. So, you know, I think it's asinine. I think it was a great issue for people across the board, for reasonable people who weren't sort of politically entrenched, for independents. And I love that even knowing this now, even years later, even when it's an abject fail, they literally can't help but continue to go all in on the issue. It's a 90-10 issue. And, you know, if Trump is in the 90, they just got to take 100% of the other 10 and back it 1,000%. So, you know, I'm glad to see that they're still doing it because I think it helps us in the long run.
It's bad for the country, but
it is a disaster for the country. It's a disaster for our daughters. It's an absolute embarrassment. I mean, again, as a father of a girl athlete, to say that, like, hey, you're just going to have to deal with it because that guy's 8 inches taller than you and stronger.
Have you had to deal with that?
Not yet.
How would you?
I'd be vocal. I'd be.
And what's your advice
loud
for parents that have to deal? I mean, I think dads need to start rising up and saying, we're not going to put up with this stuff. I mean, what is this?
No, hey.
And because I know you, I don't think you would put up with this.
No, come on, not even like. And this will get me into trouble, but like you have to call it out. You know, enough of the nonsense. Like there's no political capital in destroying your child's future to be woke, to be able to get the applause, you know, like from, you know, that crowd who hates your guts anyway. And so, you know, I think it's so fundamentally important that we all have to become unafraid to speak up on these kinds of issues. And when you do, you realize There's actually a lot of us. It's the vast majority. But again, for years, we've been put into these corners. There was a time where if you said these things, you'd be canceled. You'd be thrown off social media. You'd be thrown out of the PTA meeting. You couldn't do that. So we have to stand strong for this. I've gone through enough of the child athlete sports thing. I have 5 kids. I'll get in trouble as a dad again for saying this, which is like, there's nothing quite as painful as like a 3-year-old's like triple header in softball. Like if you're gonna put in years of that kind of time, and then your daughter or your kid becomes a great athlete, and you just say, oh, well, I guess it was a good run. They're better than the other girls, but there's 3 dudes that just took their spot. I guess we're just gonna take it. That's not gonna work. That's the way society fails.
So in closing here, Don, because I know that, and thank you for being generous with your time, you got a packed schedule. The question we get a lot from the audience is, Charlie, how do I deal with the hate? Picking up on something you said it briefly. You said, the hate fuels me. I love the hate.
Yeah.
Because if you look at these amazing students, and do you notice, Don, we give the best tickets to our students?
They should.
Right? These are the warriors right here. And so when they say, Charlie, how do I deal with the hate at my high school? How do I deal with the hate at my college? You are uniquely positioned to be able to answer that because you've been hauled in front of Congress, you've been investigated, you've had a decade of hate. I think you have the 2nd most death threats in the country next to your father.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And what's your advice to the patriots of all ages that don't know how to deal with that kind of hate?
Listen, you get used to it, okay? So for me, it actually started less about just the hate. It was more about, the cancel culture. It was, we built hotels and buildings. We did that in a lot of cities. Most of them are liberal cities. We were, I got invited to every cool person party in New York City for decades. And then, it was gone like that. And I was like, wow, like these people that I thought were friends for decades, they don't call anymore. Then when you won, they called, oh, I love what you were doing. I was like, no, dude, I was reading your Facebook post. Like, you're just trying to have the best of both worlds. It does take time, but I realized it was actually better, even from a business standpoint, to be a leader for a large group. If it was 50% of the country, it's like, wow, there's still something there, right? I'd rather be thought of by them as someone who's willing to have that conviction to fight for these things than be sort of agnostic to the general population. It was just another guy that was there. So it took a lot of time. I mean, it took a lot of, we lost hundreds of millions in business, not just on the sort of the lawfare side of things that we were fighting, but just people canceling as well. One person in a group of 100 doesn't like you, so we're just not going to go to your hotels. That was hard to get used to, but once you got used to it, you realized there's still hope. And what you're fighting for is so much more important in the grand scheme of things. Again, you don't have to do everything like I did. I sort of took the aggressive approach on everything. You can have these conversations respectfully. I love what you do, and we did this in 16 and 15.
We've been doing it for 10 years. Don and I, who thinks Don should come to a college campus with me this semester? Wouldn't that be great?
I think
by popular demand.
By popular demand. Listen, we were doing it before it was like a daily thing. When it was like, hey, once a month we went to Penn State. We went to one.
It was aggressive.
Up in Michigan State. We went up there. This is a 16 campaign, and it was me and Charlie and another friend of ours, and Tommy. Yeah, and we literally were about to get on the stage, and the state police were there, and they showed up. The state police, like the Michigan State Police showed up and were like, hey man, we can't tell you not to do this, but like, this is bad. And the university, of course, made sure that all the radicals could get in, even though we oversold to the groups that were people like us.
You guys know what we're
talking about. And that was fine. You've seen all of this. And they go, we can't stop you from doing it, but we also can't guarantee your safety. And we're putting out like a notice right now that like, you should not do this. Like, it's against, common sense to be going out there. And we basically looked at each other.
Go.
I literally said, like, I would rather get my ass kicked right here, right now, than capitulate to the woke mob. And we did. And it was actually amazing. We were backstage, we were about to go on, and like, what was it? It was like the offensive line of the football team showed up, like, it's like, we love you guys. We're just here if anything goes wrong. Don't you worry. Like, I mean, these guys were like our unhired, unannounced, like, security detail. I'm looking at this guy. I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'1", 195. And I was like looking at this guy. I was like, I don't want to meet that guy if he's on the other side. But like, we went out, and the energy in the room, there was a tension. And, our guys sort of hit these guys with facts and reality and just sort of shut them down. And so, what Charlie does when he goes there, he doesn't lose his cool. he keeps his temper, he talks about facts, and you realize their arguments fall apart so quickly because they don't actually have anything other than sort of the high-level soundbite that they're talking about. And so when you're able to reason with them, you see most of these people, they walk away, they're like, oh, I thought I was going to own this guy, and they're broken when they walk off the stage. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. So you don't have to do it perhaps the way we did it. And I'm even trying to alter some of that now because now, again, there's a broader coalition. We don't have to just be so forceful with it. You can do it with facts, logic, reason, and decency.
Don, I speak on behalf of all of our students. Thank you for all you do for our movement. You work your tail off. Donald Trump Jr., everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Muy pronto, vuelve a escuchar las noticias más relevantes en este canal de noticias.